Going live. It says going live right there on the screen. All right, you're live. We are live. All right. Hi, I'm Steven. That's Erock. That's John. We are from Just Got Played, and we are here talking about the most overrated games. Objectively. No. What we think are obviously are the most overrated games. I'm sure your list is different, and I'm sure you won't. I think even some of these guys here won't even agree with my list. So, but yeah, we've got, three each, maybe some honorable mentions. We'll take some notes from, oh boy, Neutral's already throwing out titles. So they have to be highly rated to be overrated. Neutral. Sorry, Cards Against Humanity doesn't get over that bar.
Any rating is too high of a rating.
I think among non-gamers, Cards Against Humanity is highly rated, so I would allow that on the list.
Yeah. I mean, I own it. I will play it if people want to play it. Don't know what I would do with it otherwise. It's not like you can just give that away as a present to somebody.
What's that game where you're putting tiles down and making roads and abbeys and stuff?
Carcassonne?
Yeah, that's my number one.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. Well, if Kevin...
Gave it away in the intro.
If Kevin from our gaming group was here, he'd be all over Formula D, one of my favorite
We should
games
have
of all
Kevin
time.
on as a special guest, because I would love to hear
his
least favorite games of all time.
Let's get him on and pile on him. All
Just
right.
a side note, Tiffany wasn't able to join us tonight, which I don't know about you guys, but for me, it was like, whew, because...
Oh, no, I was ready to go right
I
at
definitely
her.
don't want to say anything negative about Tiffany, who's not in earshot in any way.
I
love you, babe. Love you.
I got probably 2 games in her top 10 that I'm coming with tonight.
I was going to put
so,
Terraforming Mars, but I was afraid she'd stab me, so I took it off the list.
Nice. Good choice. The whole internet might stab you. All right, well, let's get started. Erock, why don't you lead us off with, I don't know, one of your 3 most overrated games?
All right, so I want to preface this by saying I might at some point get a little bit carried away and imply or say that these are bad games. I don't want to say that these are bad games. There are people that like these games. They're just not for me. So for me, I feel like these are overrated titles. I might get carried away and say this game sucks, I don't ever want to play it again or something like that. But at the end of the day, there are many different games because there are many different people and people like different things, and there's nothing wrong with that. However,
all of my adjectives are accurate. If I say it, I mean it.
I do have a list of 3 and perhaps an honorable mention or 2 for this video. I don't know how you guys organize this. For me, I pretty much, my number 3 is the lowest ranked game on BGG, and then I work up to the highest ranked game on BGG, mostly because I feel that's most egregious to me. So the farther down on the rankings it is, the less egregious to me it is that it should be there at all, and the higher you go. I will also say that all 3 of my games are within the top 200 on Board Game Geek. So without further ado, all right, all you flamers and haters, you get ready, because I'm going to start off hot. My number 3 is Final Girl, and I've never played the game. I don't care. It is ranked 179. This is a diatribe against solo games. Solo games should not be rated with the other games. You want to have a different list? Have a different list, but they should absolutely not be rated with the other games. And don't get me wrong, if a game plays 1 to 6, I'm fine with you playing it solo. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm talking about games that are strictly solo experiences. And Tiff's been like, I'm kind of interested in that Final Girl. It looks kind of cool. There are a lot of people talking about it. I'm like, it's a solo game. She's like, it's not really, because we can sit there and do you mean we could pretend to be one person, is basically what you're saying.
Like every co-op?
Well, but co-ops are different because you have a turn. You have a turn to do a thing.
Yeah, and you can do the thing that other people told you to do on that turn.
Well, yeah, but even if you disagree with us, you're like, nah, I'm going to do the thing that I think's right. That's valid in a co-op game. And in a game like this, if you just disagree and you're outvoted, too bad. That's the way things are going, because it's not a multiplayer experience. And I have a particular one for this one as well, and that is Nemo's War, that claims to be 1 to 4. It is not 1 to 4. It is 1 to 4 if the 4 of you sit there and collectively make decisions and then progress the game. It is ridiculous. Solo gaming should not be compared to multi-gaming at all. When I have a different list, have a different list. I'm fine with it.
It's interesting because I wonder how many really high ratings of something like Gloomhaven are from people who only ever played it solo.
I'm fine with the game if it also scales up, not strictly
Yeah,
solo
but
games.
when you're talking about the rating from all those solo players are included in there, which seems like you wouldn't want that, right?
No, I'm fine with that. Just don't put strictly solo games on there because it cuts the rest of us out. I don't play solo games. I play games on my computer when I'm alone. I do not play solo games. I don't care about them. Don't put them in my
Erock
rating.
has too many friends to play solo games.
I'm speechless. It's a whole category. Solo games out.
The views of Erock are not necessarily the views of Just Got Played subsidiaries, and Just Got Played Incorporated.
So they should be.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well,
He's the
I'm coming in
CEO.
hot,
No,
so
you
here
did
we
come
go.
in hot. But as a matter of fact, I'm calling dibs on going next because I'm piggybacking off of him, and I'm coming in hot as well.
okay.
I think he's a little out of his mind on the solo thing, but clearly that's his hill to die on, and I'll let him die there. However,
That's my
he's
number 3 hill to die on.
he's very close to a very cromulent point, and that is co-op games that are highly rated to me are terrible because you can play every co-op game as a solo game. Yes, I have a turn, but if Erock and Steven have played it 17 times and they're like, hey, move your monkey over to this part of the island, get the coconut and the banana, and we'll win the game. I can't really have my own turn because that is the best move. There is no real alternative to it. And if I do anything else, I'm throwing the game. So when it comes to cooperative and solo-only games, the line between those are thin, and I'll have nothing to do with either one of them. So now I'm on the hill with Erock. I agree with him. I think co-op games, if they're your thing, that's fine. You can enjoy them. For me, a co-op game is just, it doesn't do anything for me. It's a single player experience that we're trying to enjoy together, and there's only so much room on a seesaw. It's like 5 people trying to ride a seesaw. Does nothing for me.
I will tell you there are some co-op games you can't play solo, like The Crew or Hanabi.
Yes,
Right.
and the broader definition, yes. But I have to pick a game for this, and I'm picking the most highly rated co-op game, and that is Pandemic. I'm coming for Pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you talk about lists of, hey, how do we get people in the hobby? I think Pandemic is a terrible game to get people in the hobby from my personal experience. I'll still occasionally recommend it because of the like, hey, my friend likes X and this and that, and they're not strong on games. I'll say, well, I'll play Pandemic because then you can quarterback the whole thing and they won't feel lost. So there's a time and place for it. But when it comes to rating games as highly overrated, I don't think there's many more highly overrated than Pandemic. It works fine. It's a solid game, but you're just going up against a random deck of cards, hoping the Pandemic doesn't hit, and the moves that you make on your turn are usually so obvious that other people figure it out. Just, oh, there's 3 cubes here. If we get an outbreak, that's going to spread. That becomes your priority. You focus on doing that, and then your turn's over. You only get 2 actions, and that could be move or move a cube. And all you've really done is stem the tide. You haven't affected the game in any way. You're just buying time until someone can come over there and do more. So to me, co-op and solo games, I have no room for them in my heart. It's cold, and it's empty, and there's no place for them. So that's why, for me, Pandemic is the 3rd overrated game of all time, because it's just not great. It's not great for new players. I don't love the whole concept of it. So Eric and I are on the hill. Ready.
To be clear, I think we're on separate but close hills.
They're very similar hills.
They're similar hills. But...
Yours is a little higher than mine. And you're up there. Ironically, you're up there alone.
Indeed, right. I am playing.
You could be
this
playing Final
solo.
Girl on that
That
hill.
is correct. I have to say, in a lot of ways, I do agree with you, but it does matter about the game. There's a lot of co-op games, like Steven was saying, that you just can't do it by yourself. And insofar as there's also other games like Gloomhaven, that it changes the dynamic greatly. Yes, I could sit there and play 2 or 4 players, but it's a whole lot different when there's 4 of us sitting there, and it makes the game a whole lot more vibrant and more enjoyable.
Some games like Neutral called out Mechs versus Minion. That's just a different experience, solo versus several players. And
Well, but Go ahead. Sorry.
There's also games like Robinson Crusoe, because one of the problems you have with co-op is there's a right choice to make. But in a
Yes.
game like Robinson Crusoe, there's not, because you have a lot of different things you want to do, and you can't do them all. So you can guarantee that some of them succeed, but you can't guarantee that all of them succeed. So there's like this dice roll. So you can't just sit there and go, well, you have to gamble essentially, and so whether or not that gamble works out, you don't know until you roll the die. So you don't, and you'll never know if you made the right choice, right? There's a few ways to mitigate what you're talking about, but yeah, a lot of co-ops are
Well, a lot of the ways you're talking about, though, add a non-co-op element into it. With the crew, you're working on your own thing as well, and you're trying to do a mission together. So, like, that adds a little twist that keeps it interesting. And with Hanabi, that's more of an activity than a game. Still fun, but it's an activity.
Yeah, I mean,
There's always exceptions that prove the rule, but my point is, a pure co-op game to me is almost always going to be overrated, because I could play that solo and it would not change the game very much at all.
Yeah,
and of
As
course,
we know, Just Got Played is against solo games. Thank you.
if you don't have friends, what are you doing? Get friends.
I think probably more succinctly would be co-op games with the alpha gamer problem, right? So
I
some
agree
games,
100% with that.
Anything that can be quarterbacked, and that's
Yeah.
why specifically I went with Pandemic, because
Yeah.
it's the most popular and it's
the
easiest to
most
quarterback.
quarterbacked game ever.
Yeah, so that specifically is why. Like, and again, if you like co-op games, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't get the appeal of it, and to me, they're all overhyped.
Yeah. All right. Well, so speaking a little bit about how I made my list, BGG actually, if you rate games on Board Game Geek, it makes it really easy. There's a stats page where you can look at the biggest deltas, games that you overrate or underrate, whatever, biggest deltas. I didn't go by that. I didn't just like pick my 3 biggest deltas, because I wanted to factor in how much I was really looking forward to playing the game versus the experience that I got out of it, right? So, like I might rate a game really low and other people have rated it pretty high, but I didn't think I was going to like it anyway. But there are some games that I really wanted to like and really tried to like, and I really don't get why people like them. And so I'm going to start. I'll save my other 2 later for Tiffany. They're some of Tiffany's favorites. So I'm just going to start right off the bat with a co-op game, which is T.I.M.E Stories.
Oh, Lord.
So I've got to tell you, T.I.M E Stories it just zoomed up the rating charts on Board Game Geek. It went all the way to like 25, like the number 25 ranked game of all time, and it's crashed down to like 250 or something since then. But I don't get the appeal of the game. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, so I'm exposed to a lot of fiction. I listen to hundreds of hours of fiction every year. And that's good fiction, right? Like I like those stories. So T.I.M E Stories, I don't know, maybe sort of tries to build itself as kind of a choose your own adventure, right? So either it has to be an interesting gameplay mechanism, or it has to have an interesting story, ideally both, but to me it has neither, right? The story, I only played the first scenario. I don't even remember though what it was or the resolution of it, right? It's just completely forgettable to me. Like I understand the whole quantum leap sort of thing, and then going back and then repeating the scenario, but then the repeating the scenario was just awful. I mean, you got to go back and do a bunch of stuff that you already did. Ooh, that's fun.
There's nothing new. You're just getting back to the point.
I mean, you
used
could,
to be at.
yeah. I mean, you could go a different way and stuff, but a lot of the same. You're just gonna see a lot of the same stuff, right? And then there's like some puzzles and things in there, and they're not particularly interesting. I mean, one of the puzzles I had was like, here's a maze that you got to put these 4 pieces together. Everybody stare at it because you can't touch it, until you're ready to commit to put it together. And then I don't know. That was just boring as hell. And then sometimes, like, I think a die roll can just defeat you if I'm remembering properly. And then you got to go back and start all over. And it's just like, I mean, if there's anything worse than lose a turn in a game, it's start effing completely over.
It's a game about trial and error that plays like a full-length board game that you can lose for no good reason and have to restart it.
Yeah, and I don't get the appeal to that. People were when this was first out, people were all over how amazing this was. And, you know, to be honest, maybe they still would be if they hadn't just beat that dead horse to death with scenarios, you know, trying to milk every dollar out of it. I think they eventually put out some scenarios that even fans of the game were like, oh, this sucks now.
There was a French one that they translated over, but in one of the puzzles they made a translating error, so it was impossible to win because of that error. And that at that point is when people, I think, were like, all right, I'm done. I'm out.
Okay, so I don't. Erock, have you played Time Stories?
I'm being conspicuously silent because we're going to have a very similar conversation. To be fair, it's not Time Stories. Time Stories would have been in my 10 to 20 tier for this, but it's going to be a very similar conversation here in a little bit.
That did give me an honorable mention, though, which is Seventh Continent.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same. That I won't talk about any further for some reason.
Yeah. Well, and so again, Time Stories, I don't even remember what I rated, like a 2 or a 3 or something. It's not one of the biggest deltas, like I said, that I have, but when you factor it in with like how excited I was to play this based on what other people described their experience with it, I was ready to go, and I had people come over and I traded for a copy of the game, you know, and like, all right, let's do this. And I was just like, why did I do this to everybody? All right, Erock, I know you're chopping at the bit here, so go ahead.
We're going to have to come back to that in a few minutes because my number 2 here is ranked 142 on Board Game Geek right now. And there are, I don't know, 2 or 3 other ones that are also ranked somewhere in the top 1,000. And this is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Agency. I don't get this game. The whole point of this game is you are presented with this mystery, and here's some new newspapers, and here's a map of the city, and you kind of supposed to wander around and figure out what you're doing. All right, cool. But it's also meant to be played like, all right, let's think about this till we meet up again next week. No. Let's play the game and finish the game while we're here. That's what I want to do. I don't want to sit around and ponder it and think, maybe there was a newspaper article from the one we did 3 times ago that's actually relevant now. No, this is way too much. I don't want to be an actual private investigator. I don't want to do that. I want to play a game in which it's simulated over the course of a couple of hours. And you find some clues and you figure things out and the game is over and everybody's happy or sad or had a good experience and then they go home. I'm not trying to play this game for 6 months as we dissect every little bit of possible evidence in this game. No.
Just no.
Huh?
Well, you know,
that's just play one of those detective games that really click anyway. It's all like, if you stumble upon the answer, you feel really good. If you don't, it's just kind of like, okay, I did some stuff.
These games are really popular. There's a lot of people that love this. Tiffany loves this idea like you wouldn't imagine. But I just, no, I don't want to think about this on Tuesday. I don't want to, hey, what'd you think? Well, maybe we should, no. I want to play a game and I want to be finished with the game.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a game where I would have thought you just sat down and played a session and collect the stuff and people talk about it like it's really fun. People were super excited when it got reprinted, right? It was out of print for a long time. They made a new version. And so, I'm surprised. I've never
3 of those.
Nice. I've never heard that feedback on it before. So, wow, yeah. Dodged a bullet that I've never done that then.
I think Erock might have both of my other games on his shelf. What's interesting.
I have most of the games on my shelf.
Yeah. Well, my next 2 games are definitely on his shelf somewhere, but I'll throw it over to you next, John.
So my number 2 is a game that I don't understand the appeal of it. I played it once or twice, 3 times against my will, because I have a couple of good friends that really enjoyed it. And then I sat down and played a 7-player game of it. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, I don't see why this is fun at all to anybody. And Steven knows.
That was my 7-player game, right?
Yeah. I played 7-player with Steven, and it ruined it. I don't know if he was a factor. Could have been. We'll have to discuss that later. No, it's Scythe. Scythe feels like this big war game where you're all setting up your pieces and manipulating into positions and doing all this stuff. And you're ready to throw down and have this war, It's not. There's no war in the game. There's no fighting in the game. The game is just about slowly moving one or two hexes at a time to sit on some resources until you can complete objectives. And then when you're ready to end the game, you do one fake battle against the weakest person you know, and it's like, "Oh, I completely trounced you." And the other person's like, "Yeah, I'm not trying and I don't want to win." And then the game's over. And you just sit there going, "Why is this fun?" Throw in the fact that you got two different boards that are randomized. One set of them was so powerful that they banned it from tournament play because it just automatically wins the game. Variable player powers, which in my opinion, that concept is far more missed than hit to me across all board games. And you just got this just melange of soup that I'm just like, I don't get why this is fun. But it was so hyped for so long, and so many people to this day still love it. And I do not understand 1 ounce of why it's supposed to be a good game.
I like Scythe a lot. I think one of the main problems was because I also played it one time at 7. Don't ever play this at 7.
Yeah,
Never.
100%.
Maximum 5. Maximum, and I would recommend 3 or 4 to play this game.
I would say my 7-player game of it was just as enjoyable as my 5-player game of it.
Yeah, but it took an extra 2 hours.
And it gets so crowded, and like half the things that people can do are, kind of related to open spaces next to them, and there aren't any in a 7-player game. So it just kind of like cuts the legs out from half the people playing because a lot of their abilities just don't work in a 7-player game. Yes, you can play at 7. If you absolutely love this game and so do 6 other people, then go ahead, have yourself some fun. But I'm never gonna play this at 7. I like this game a lot. I think the problem with this game is that it presents like a war game, like you said, and that it's not what it is. This is a resource management game that's going to have a touch of conflict, and it's not real conflict either. Like you said, it's like I'm going to show you some cards, you can show me some cards, and whoever has the highest value wins.
Well, it can be. I mean, I have gone charging over to hit somebody and steal a boatload of resources sitting on a space before, right?
Well, yes, that's entirely possible because the resources stay on the map.
Yeah.
So if you get players who don't really understand what's going on or really get the whole like impact of that, then yes, absolutely, you can run over and steal basically everything that somebody worked for the whole game. But if you've played that a few times, not to let that happen.
Yeah, that makes it a better game.
You're happy about that. The person you destroyed is really mad, and the other 5 people go online to make a video called "Most Overrated Board Games of All Time," and nobody wins in this scenario. So like, to this day, I'll still, if my friends want to play it, because I like my friends. I don't hate the game. It's not just torture. I just don't get it. I don't understand why it's supposed to be fun. I've never had fun in Scythe. It was like an engine builder resource management, but it doesn't feel intuitive to that. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything exciting with those resources. If somebody comes and punches you in the face, you just lose. I don't get it. I would have loved this game to have been you position on the map and get all the resources, and then you have one final battle to the end. Can you imagine how cool that would have been? 7 different nations meeting in the middle of this field trying to take each other out after gathering other resources. I love that, but that's not what this game is. So I think mismatched mechanics to what you feel like it should be, variable player powers, and all the other things going on, versus the hype it gets. I think it is very well suited at number 2 on this list.
It's interesting that you mention that you would play it if one of your friends wanted to play it, right? And I think that's interesting because I'm looking at my list and only one of my 3 games you could talk me into playing again.
Well, I mean, as we said, it's overhyped, not necessarily bad. I don't think Scythe is a bad game. I actually enjoy the look, I'm gonna move this turn and I can't move again next turn, so I'm gonna do, and you're planning out your turns. Like, I enjoy all of that. I just don't enjoy how it like comes together at the end and someone goes, "Oh, I won by 47 points because I went and fought Steven at the right time." It's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, but I don't hate the mechanic of it.
To be fair, I just finished my yearly revamping of my top list for the all games ever, basically, and this one took a beating. This one has fallen on my list to 78. But for me, it's still within the top 100. But it used to be around 15. And it's gone down to like 78. So I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was okay when I bought it. I backed it on Kickstarter. I got one of the fancy versions. Gosh, I got 2 of the fancy versions. And I sold one at a charity auction for $1,000. I mean, it's charity, obviously, and then I had to ship.
That's how hyped it is.
Yeah, and then I had to ship it to Hawaii. That was fun.
Nice.
It's, that big heavy box, but anyway, it raised a bunch of money for charity, so that's great. But yeah, and then I bought the expansion. I played 7-player. I really do I think if I were to play this again, I would like to maybe take a crack at the Rise of Fenris, which I've heard a lot of good things about.
I've heard good things as well.
Yeah,
but
me too. I'd really like to play through that, but Babe's like beyond, like she doesn't really like it at all. So
I gotta wash my hair that night, whatever night you're doing it on.
Hard to get it to the table if Babe's not playing, let alone like a whole campaign of an expansion. Yeah. Like I'm never gonna get that played.
I've basically given up on legacy or campaign games unless it's with my family. It's just too much time.
If we had a list of games I wish I liked, Scythe would probably be number 1, maybe number 2. But I just don't. If you jump from the hype to the reality on this, you'd look like Wile E. Coyote, 70 feet under the ground with a shape of you in the floor.
Well, the number 1 game on my list is the game that I tried the hardest to like, but we'll get there a little bit later. So, and incidentally, Neutral's in the comments. He says
he's been speaking a lot while we've been.
Yeah, his number 3 is Dominion, which is interesting because I would still play Dominion. I have Dominion with Intrigue. I never went all in on Dominion. But I respect it as the OG, deck builder, right? That kicked off the deck building craze. And I still think it's a decent game, but I would probably play a dozen other deck builders first now.
Well, the problem is Dominion is bouncing a basketball. It started this trend, it created this, but that's all it does is deck build. That's it. There's 50 other games now that do that and incorporate it into an entire game of other mechanics. It's like playing basketball versus bouncing a ball. So it's still a solid fundamental game, but it's just been taken to so many new levels. You just can't go back to that basicness.
I mean, you can. I'll play Sushi Go, which is just a basic drafting game. I'll play For Sale, which is a basic auction game. You can have a basic game that is still really good, but for some reason Dominion is just not quite at the level of those other games for me.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. There's a lot of games like El Grande. There's so many games that did that kind of, but it's still the best. It's still the best after all this time, and Dominion's just been kind of supplanted. You know what I mean? Not to keep harping on it, but Dominion is now 157 on my all-time list. So got a lot of respect. I'll play it, but yeah, there's just other better games now.
All right, well, moving on to my number 2 is a game that, again, I really wanted to like because I like the theme a lot, and it's a worker placement game. I like worker placement, and this is Dinosaur Island. Incidentally, I did find...
Babe is going to kill you.
No, you just wait. No, you know what my number 1 is. So,
she's getting her knives out now, sir.
So, incidentally, I finally probably found the game I was looking for in Tiny Epic Dinosaurs, which I think is far superior to Dinosaur Island, by the way, in case you're looking for a good version of this theme. And it's been a while since I played Dinosaur Island, but this is what I remember. I remember it has several phases, right? And then phase 1 is all about sort of collecting the resources for what you're going to do.
Dice drafting. Phase 1 is like...
Well, there's other stuff besides the dice too, right? But yeah, it's the dice draft. The key is the dice drafting, and then phase 3 is when you use a lot of that stuff, and then I sort of forget what happens in phase 2. But phase 2
was just like getting stuff, like get amusements or get people to work in there, stuff like that.
So what I hated about this game was... and the reason why I don't look forward to playing it ever again is you look at it and you're like, okay, well, here is when we get to phase 3, I'm going to do some things. So let me plan out what I'm going to do in phase 3. Okay, well, that's going to require me to get this and this and this and whatever in phase 1 and 2. And so I'm just going to start down this path. Okay, so I'm going to start down this path and I get one of the things I need. And then it goes around and everybody else takes some stuff. And then maybe you're like, okay, I'm still on that path. I'm going to take another thing. And it goes around. And then somebody takes one of the things you need. And now you're like, crap. Now I can't do anything in phase 3 because I was going down this path, but I needed all these things and I can't get these things. So now I'm not going to be able to do anything in phase 3. So what else am I going to do? Let me sit here and replan my whole effing next 2 phases right now in phase 1 because it's just... It is just so awful with AP.
So rigid.
And it's rigid, and the AP that induces it is awful. And worker placement games don't have to be like this, right? There are a lot of worker placement games where And sure, you're planning on doing something, and you're like, well, I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go there. So I go here, and then somebody else goes there, and now you're blocked, and you're like, well, okay, now I'll go do this other thing. And so they're a lot more flexible, and you just do something else. It's okay, and it's not divided into these weird blocks and phases where you have to collect this stuff to spin later. So you have to know everything you're going to do later so that you can get the stuff now. And I thought that was an awful game design decision, and it just made the game drag, because that, as you get closer and closer to the end of that phase one, as those dice and everything else, whatever things that people need are disappearing, people are stopping, going, oh crap, well, I needed that thing, but now he took it, so hold on, let me restart my whole process of what I'm going to do. How am I going to recover from this situation? And it can happen just right before your turn too, right? So you're just spending all this time. I mean, I won't name the game, but yeah, I will. It's named Coven, right? So there's this game called Coven, and the board would rotate right before your turn. So you could do absolutely zero planning before your turn because you had no idea what the board state was going to be, right? So this was sort of like that. You're like, I don't know what those other people are going to do, but they're going to do something and it's going to change my plan, but I can't plan anything. And, I don't know. So, a lot of games I'll be like, well, here's my plan A, here's my plan B, here's my plan C. I'm just going to do this. I can't do that or that or that or whatever. But Dinosaur Island made it unnecessarily complicated in what I think were bad design decisions. Why isn't it just like every other worker placement game where it's like, well, I go here and get this, or I go here and do this or whatever? Why is it divided into phase? I think that just makes the game a lot worse. So anyway, that's...
Respectfully disagree. I think that game's really good. I like the different phases. Just throwing things out there, phrases and stuff. I think I'm way more a tactician than a strategist, and you are probably way more a strategist than a tactician. But it does not bother me in this game as much. I feel like I can adapt to whatever's available. Yes, there's 100 times when I play this game where I'm like, oh, you took the thing. No. But then I adapt and I move on and I do something else.
Yeah, so let me be clear. If you're just going to sort of wing it, it's fine, right? Just take something, well, I'll use that eventually, whatever, etc. But if you're sort of like me and you want to play strategically and you got to look ahead. Well, like, here's what I'm going to do for all these turns. And, it's just, I am not an AP prone person, but this game, woof, awful. But, yeah, I mean, what was that game, Silver River? You guys weren't there, I guess. But we played Silver River and reviewed it for the channel. You had to, like, behind your player shield, you had to dedicate all your resources to every action you were going to do to pre-plan all your actions for the next phase to do all the things. It's like, why?
And wasn't there take that in that game too?
Yeah, it's just like
you need a red, they take it from you, and you're just like, well,
yeah,
they literally go outside and lay down.
They literally changed the game based on our feedback before before the Kickstarter.
I played that with you, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, number one, I agree with you 100%. This is a perfect game for this list, and I think there's a hidden theme here. And between the three of us, my wife loves this game, and I hate this game. But when you say that you can pivot, I think it's hard to pivot in this game because you literally go and get a blueprint for a dinosaur, and it wants specific things. And when you go to get the DNA for that dinosaur, if it's not there, you're just out of luck.
Yeah, but you're out of luck that turn. This is not a short game. There's some times where you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get it this turn, so I'm going to do something else this turn. That's just the game. If that's
not a short game because everybody sits there going, oh, what the hell am I going to do now?
Oh, no, this is terrible. Everyone takes what they want, so no one gets what they want. But then
I'm defending Babe on this one. I like this game a lot.
This also has the worst mechanic of all time, and they're called hooligans.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I hadn't even gotten to the hooligans yet. Go ahead, John.
This is a strategy game with the biggest slap in the mouth RNG I've ever seen in my life, and you cannot convince me there's a worse mechanic. You do everything right. You build the perfect park. You've got the theme park. You've got security up. Everyone's having a great time. You draw literal points and money out of the bag that's not only going to give you points this turn, but it's going to get your engine going because they generate more money over time. Oh, I drew 4 hooligans out of the bag and you drew none. You win now. Congratulations. You did really good.
I don't want this to get into an hour-long discussion on Dinosaur Island, but I disagree. I think that's a push your luck mechanism. Because you can mitigate that if you spend time getting the stuff to mitigate that. And if you don't, you're just gambling on pulling them or not.
Though. It's not like hey, I can go here and mitigate that. Like, You have to stop what you're doing, getting points and money, and go and search out these things that mitigate it. And then if they don't come up, you mitigated it for nothing and you wasted resources.
Well, you pushed your luck the wrong way, didn't you, sir?
Well, yeah, by playing Dinosaur Island.
That's funny. But the hooligans didn't bother me all as much as they bother John. But I just think, and I think part of it is what you said, Erock, like this is not a short game.
It's not a short game, yeah.
It way overstays its welcome to me, and I think part of it is just the AP from Phase 1. I'm just like, oh, go.
Well,
good.
just
Let's
to counter
do Phase
that,
1 again.
I'm not saying you guys are wrong, even though you're wrong. But just to counter that, there are 3 different lengths to this game. Like you can play a short game, a medium game, or a long game. So you can mitigate that a bit on your own side.
Even though I don't like this game, a short game feels unfulfilling. A long game feels
I
terrible,
agree.
and a medium
Short
game
feels
overstays
like
its welcome.
we just started. I didn't get to do anything.
I'm with John on that one.
There's 3 links, and they're all terrible for different reasons.
All right, so Neutral listed his number 2 as Codenames. And so I personally enjoy Codenames, but I have heard the most common refrain from people who don't like Codenames, and I absolutely 100% agree with them, which is this is a party game where everybody sits there staring at a person who's trying to come up with something.
Like you feel like you're on the spot the entire
times,
time.
Yeah, like so I think part of that is that it's people sell it as a party game, but it really shouldn't be, right? I mean, there are people who just don't want to be on the spot, for one, right? They don't want their entire team sitting there staring at them, waiting them to pull a genie out of the hat, get a bunch of stuff. And, probably it's okay, right? Like just say something that's 1 or 2 words. It's fine. We'll move on. Nobody cares because it's a party game, right? But people just get that, they get in that mode. And, but yeah, it's like the quietest party game ever.
Well, I think partially it's because you can do something wrong and you auto lose. You know what I'm saying? If you say the wrong thing, they pick the assassin, you lost. So it puts an intense amount of pressure on the person trying to give the clues to give something that'll get you there, but won't auto lose the game for you. Now, I got my own personal rant about Codenames. Quite frankly, I like Codenames. I think it's really cool. I've had a lot of fun playing it. But do you remember when this came out? It was like, it took over the world. Like everybody was, oh my God, Codenames, oh, it's the greatest game ever. It's like that was my beef. I was like, it's not that, it's a good game, but come on. It's not good enough to rule the world. Come on. The hype has severely calmed down since that point in time anyway. But I do enjoy this game, but I do understand why people don't like it. So, I mean,
you have to have like 8 people that are on the same wavelength. Because if you're sitting, you give a great clue with 3 answers, and someone on the other team's like, "Oh, that's brilliant! I know exactly what you're talking about." Your team's like,
but they've never seen that movie or heard that song or something.
It only takes one person like going in the wrong direction by accident, and then suddenly they're on the assassin, and you're just like,
yeah, but that's just funny to me. I don't care. Move on, play again, whatever,
But there's so many good party games that are fun from start to finish, whereas this one is 10 minutes of silence, followed by 30 seconds of, what the hell were you thinking?
I will say, my wife and I played Codenames Duet on the cruise, and I thought it was really good.
Yeah, Tiff and I played that too. I thought that was really good.
Duet's much better, in my opinion, than just base Codenames.
Yep. All right, cool. So looks like we're down to our number 1s, right, gentlemen?
Yep.
All right, Erock.
All right, so back to a previous discussion that we've had. My number 1 overrated game is currently ranked 94 on Board Game Geek, and that has been maybe alluded to is the Seventh Continent. Yep. And I have many of the same things going on as T.I.M.E Stories here. I'm not a huge fan of telling you to go watch somebody else, but no pun included, did like an hour-long review of Sleeping Gods. But it's not actually an hour-long Sleeping Gods, only like 20 minutes of that. But they started like way back at Tomb of Horrors, which was like the second D&D module that came out. And this is that, all right? There's this whole idea that you make intelligent choices in this game. And that is BS. That is a load of crap, sir. I'm telling you right now. Because this game is basically like, you're walking down a road and you see 3 things, because that's kind of how this works. Like you put a card out there and 3 different things have numbers on them that you can go and check out. And one of them is a pothole. And if you go over and look at that pothole, something reaches out and kills you. Well, now you know not to look in that pothole again. That was really smart wasn't it? I really had to really think about that to figure that one out, huh? And that's this whole mechanism of trial by error. It is not storytelling. It's not, okay? It's just putting me through a hard time so that I can beat myself up against this wall 15 times and try to memorize the right things to do. And just like Time Stories, all right. And, we all read like choose your own adventure books and things like that, right? And I'm totally stealing from Efka here because he's absolutely right. What would you do when you flipped the page in there and it killed you? Did you go all the way back to the beginning of the book? No,
I didn't take my finger off it.
You went back to the last choice and said, well, we didn't really do that. We did this other thing. And you continued the story.
Wait, you're the stickler for rules in the group.
This is a shameful past. He wasn't always that way.
In Time Stories, in Seventh Continent, in games like this, Tainted Grail, you can't just go backwards and make a different choice. Everything is so intertwined in these games that you can't just kind of go, well, let's just go back and do something else. No, you have to start from the beginning. So you have to go through the 4 hours that you already spent in the game trying to replicate your choices, because God forbid you don't turn over that rock on the side of the road that has the key in it that you need. So I hate this whole mechanism of trial by error, beat you over the head and make you memorize things. That's not being smart. That's just making me run a gauntlet and some of the things are going to kill me and some of the things are going to give me the things that I want. There's no thinking. There's no way to reason that out. This hole is going to kill me. That hole has my key. No.
There should have been a Myst style click adventure game. It would have been fine in that genre, but it does not work as a board game.
You're making me think about the old, the original game Rogue, where it deleted your character if you died. Mm-hmm. That's why they called them roguelikes now.
Roguelikes, yeah.
I played one called Moria, which was, the Dungeons of Moria. And ASCII art, good times.
Mud.
But yes, I wrote a batch file that backed up my character every time I launched the game, right? I'm keeping my finger on the page,
So I could rant about Seventh Continent for an hour. I think this game is bad in every possible way. All right. No, but I'll touch on some things. Like the map is impermanent and huge for what it is. We went and did this thing and it sent us off on a boat to another part of the map, but you don't see where you were in relativeness to the part of the map you came from.
And it's designed that way. To be fair, it's designed that way on purpose. When you move on, what you've already done goes away. It becomes a memory. It is not a permanent part of your game anymore.
And we actually went down the wrong path, which was like the area for another quest that we weren't on. Spent a lot of time and resources doing that, had to backtrack, ended up in the spot where we left on that boat in the first place. So we literally spent like an entire 3-hour session doing nothing. Then you got to go hunting for food to get more resources. You end up with barely more resources than you started with. And every time you take a step, that's a resource. It feels like you've got a very short amount of time, and if you don't know exactly where to go, what you're doing, and what to look for, you're just wasting your time. This game loves wasting your time, and I don't understand why it's supposed to be fun. I did not have an ounce of fun in this. And the decisions when you play 4 players is like you spend 20 minutes talking about what you want to discard out of your hand for the 3 steps to move across this rope bridge to get to the next tile. That's not interesting. That's not fun. It's stupid. I hate this game so much.
I agree. It's so hard. It comes across as an adventure game. There's no time for adventure because when you make missteps, you're going to lose. So it's really about memorizing what exactly the right way through this maze is. And if you don't get that exact right way right, you're not going to make it. No.
Wow. And when you put it away, say you run out of time and put it away, the map goes away. You have to restart on a single tile and it resets. So if you didn't memorize the map, you just wasted all of your time for no reason.
That's, this game was pretty well reviewed when it came out, and I zoomed into the top 100, I think. I don't remember. I guess I could look at the
I mean,
charts.
it's still at 92.
Is it? Is it still in the top 100? Because I
That's what I'm
sort of feel
saying.
like
It's
nobody's talking
92
about it
right
anymore. Yeah. Okay.
I think part of the problem with this game, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. It just bothered me when I played it. And then I saw Efka's review and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what bothers me about this game. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I think the reason that it is so high, and I'm going to go off on a slight tangent to make my point. I play a lot of Baldur's Gate 3, okay? That game is highly regarded. Everybody loves that game.
Just one game of the year.
49% of people made it out of Act 1. 49%. So this is kind of what I'm saying with Semi-Continent. I think there's a whole lot of people that played this for 3 hours and think that's the greatest thing I've ever played. But because they haven't been beaten into the ground by making the wrong decisions and losing time and just having to restart because that's the game. So,
well,
they can try again with
this
the Citadel.
I think if you play this as a solo game, it's probably better because you lose, but you can just, all right, discard 3 items, move that. Oh, I missed that. I lose, start over. Like, if you literally are just playing this like a speed run adventure solo game, I could see it being better, but there's no continent that I can see this being a good game on. I just do not get it.
We already established that all solo ratings are invalid, John.
Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The irony of it is it's the only time where you could probably improve a game by being solo, but it's still terrible.
Well, to be clear, just separate list. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Put them on a separate list.
Yeah, I got you.
Segregation of the games.
I got you. All right, John, what do you got up at the top of your list?
Oh, let's kill another darling. Some more controversy. This game is on Erock shelf for sure. It is the very first Kickstarter overhype that ever happened. It was so hyped that it was all you could hear about, talk about, or think about in board gaming at that time. It was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then it came out, and it still just had this giant hype. It was on shelves in retail, but then when you go to buy it retail, what do you mean it doesn't have the 7 different stretch goals and all this extra treasure trove of stuff in it? Then you were disappointed that stuff wasn't in there, and you just had to play the normal base game. This is another game that I played with Steven. I played it one time with him and then never played it again. And I think it is a very bad game that got so hyped that I cannot understand why. Steven, can you take a guess?
I thought you were talking about Dwellings of Eldervale over there.
I haven't played that.
Over his shoulder.
If you look over,
if you look
over Erock's shoulder, you can see it.
Midgard?
It is Blood Rage.
Oh, of course, Blood Rage.
Yes,
Blood
Rage was the
How
very
did I not
first.
guess that for you?
It made Kickstarter hype a thing. That's where it all started. Blood Rage, and it had all these just stretch goals and all this crazy stuff. I love drafting. I love some dudes on a map. I love every single component about this game. And we sat down and played it, and I'm just like, this is terrible. For number one, someone can do the Loki strategy, and in a game that's all about fighting, they want to lose. So you expend resources to beat them. They're playing the Loki strategy. They lose, and they end up further ahead than you are by throwing the match and not expending any resources. Who came up with that idea?
That's Tiffany's strategy.
Yeah. We didn't do that in our game, but
yeah.
Yes.
It's very effective. I've heard that, especially if you're not playing against people that just don't know.
If you get all the stuff for that, yeah, it's overpowered. You get so many points for losing. It's ridiculous.
So I'm over here drafting and looking and managing resources. And do I want to move into this area? Do I want to fight Erock and Steven at this one place? All this other stuff. And Erock's just sitting there going, can't wait till someone picks a fight with me because I want to lose it. And it ruins the entire meta of the game. But beyond that, the meta game, you draft a card. I drafted a card. I played this blind one time. I drafted a card that was 6 power. That's a lot of power. That's 6 power. And I went into an area where I had more troops and all this other stuff. And we had a fight. And I flipped over my 6. And Steven flipped over a 7. I didn't know the 7 was in the game. And they're the same kind of card. Why does his have a 7 written on it, but mine only has a 6? There's no good reason for it. There's none. I got a 6, he got a 7. And I lost that combat, and I lost a lot of stuff. And then I think that we didn't play with that strategy.
To be fair, we played a rule wrong, which is when you lose, you don't lose your card. But
Right, you shouldn't lose your card.
We
That
were
means
playing
you're
people
basically
lost their
guaranteed
cards
to
when
win
they
the
Sure.
next
lost.
time.
But yeah.
But the fact that I can spend all my resources and think a certain way, and my 6 is just weaker than your 7 that you got for the same amount of resources as I did. Who came up with that? Why? Why? So it literally takes drafting and all these things that I love, and none of it works well together. The Loki strategy is busted and it ruins the game. Having war cards that are the same cost but different values of it, like there's just not one part of it that I liked, and it was so hype. You could not go a day without hearing Blood Rage back in the day.
Well,
You
particularly
couldn't
on the Dice Tower, yeah.
Dice Tower loved it. Everybody was all over it. They were promoting the Kickstarter because they wanted all the stretch goals. And then it was back in the news when the retail hit, and then came with nothing. It was just the bare bones essentials edition.
That's all I had. I got the retail version. I didn't have any of the extra stuff.
And then to this day, they still have never made it available through retail means. I think
Not through retail, but they had like 3 different Kickstarters where you could have caught up on stuff.
Right.
And they do that tricky thing where like, yeah, I know we said that this thing was never going to be reprinted after the first Kickstarter, so we came out with another version of it. Now you can have it. It's just a different model, maybe a little different name on it. I mean, quite frankly, I like Blood Rage a lot. I think it's a really cool game. I got super mad. This is my poster child for just sell the stuff. Just let everybody buy the stuff. It drove me crazy.
To this day, you still can't get it. They will not sell it to you. They will not. And so it created the overhyped Kickstarter train. Like, this is where it all started. The game itself, I don't like in any way. There's a lot of decisions I don't agree with. Like, everything about this game is wrong, and it is one of the most overhyped games of all time.
This makes me mad at people. This whole process of the, Kickstarter exclusives, I get extremely mad at people who want Kickstarter exclusives. Screw you. Let everybody play the same game.
Yeah, right. There's so many ways to reward backers other than Kickstarter exclusives. I mean, there's a lot of crowdfunding things I hate. I hate early bird stuff. I hate exclusives. I think it's nice for backers to get stuff early. Fine. I think it's nice for backers to get all kinds of stuff included that's later sold as promos. Fine. There's plenty of ways to reward.
That's how you do it.
Sell it later. Just charge for it or what. I don't care.
Call it Kickstarter exclusive. If you buy the Kickstarter, it's chipped in for free. You get it early before it gets on retail shelves, and then when it goes to retail, sell the base game and then the Kickstarter upgrade kit on the side. Why do you have to have stuff that I don't to feel good about your purchase? And that's why games like this I will not touch out of principle, because I'm not dealing with that. I don't want to feel like I'm playing an incomplete game because a certain company wanted to make an extra $200K with FOMO.
And to be fair, that certain company is by far the worst, because they
100%.
do this with every game. If you don't kickstart it, you're not getting all the stuff. So they slave their people into continually backing everything that they possibly do, because in case it's a good game, I want to make sure I have everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you couldn't get the other stuff.
I mean,
so like when it was so popular,
say is, come on.
Well,
that's not cool.
Yeah. I will say that I thought Blood Rage was okay. I got rid of it because the people I would play the game with didn't enjoy our session of it. I don't know if that had anything to do with the fact that I outscored all 3 of them combined, but just want to throw that out there. But normally, I don't know. I thought I would like the game more than I would have. So yeah, left my shelves.
Yeah, even if you think it's okay, you have to admit the hype versus what it is.
Oh yeah,
massive disparity.
Yeah, big time.
Chaos
all right,
in the old world's better.
Oh yeah, well I haven't played that, so. But I believe you. All right. Well, can you guess what my number 1 is?
It's not
Terraforming Mars.
It's going to be Everdell, and Babe is going to kill you.
It is absolutely Everdell, and there's a couple reasons for this. This is the game that I have tried the hardest, definitely the one I've spent the most time trying to find the fun. I have probably
it's giving Steven the fool card.
No, that's not that's just one minor point though. But Deception Murder in Hong Kong I have maybe tried more times, but I've spent more time playing Everdell. And that's the problem. I've spent so much damn time playing Everdell. Oh my god. How long do people have to take on their stupid turn for Everdell? Why do people take forever playing this game? And I played...
That's what it's called, Everdell.
Yeah, and I've played with different sets of people every time I've played. And they take forever. And I don't... I'm just sitting there. I'm like, take your turn. Come on. Let's go. Whatever. And every time I've played this game, I have finished before somebody left the table and come back 15 minutes, 20 minutes later to see if I won or not.
It was that one time it was half an hour. You finished a half hour.
And I
before.
won. I came back and it's like, oh, okay, I won. That's good to know. I'd forgotten that we were playing this game. Like I hate that, by the way, that the idea that somebody's just playing while somebody else is finished and they're just forever, ever. But yes, you bring up the whatever it is, the skunk card, whatever it is, right?
The fool, indeed.
The fool. Yeah. Like, why is there one? I don't know. Maybe there's two of them. I don't know. Why is there
two copies of the one card?
Why are there two take that cards in this game? There is no take that in this game anywhere else except for these two stupid cards. And JJ, when we were talking about this, it's sort of like what you were saying earlier, Erock, about mitigating stuff. It's like JJ's like, well, I just mitigate that. I'm like, what? Two cards in that whole freaking deck. You're going to spend your entire game making sure you've mitigated
that's
that.
My argument.
The deck's like this.
Somebody
by the
has
way.
it and plays it.
There's the deck's that big, so
you can mitigate it without trying to necessarily mitigate that one particular card. Just because there's ways to get rid of cards off your board.
No, but listen, somebody has it in their hand. They can play it for free because they have that stupid building that lets them play it for free, whatever the building that lets them play it for free is. And so you're sitting there and you're like, you've got the cemetery and you're like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make space in I think it's the cemetery anyway. I'm going to make space in my tableau and I'm going to put this last card down and now I'm done. Right? So as soon as you use that cemetery, now you can't use it again. You've used it up, right? And you've got that space and somebody's like, oh, I guess I'll put the stupid skunk there since I have it. And you're like, I just made that space to play my other card. I didn't even know you had that. There is no way for me to get rid of it, even though if you'd played it at any other point in the entire game, I could have gotten rid of it because I had the stupid cemetery, which I just used and can't use again. It's just like, why is that stupid card in there? But that's not even, despite the fact that that is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in a board game. That's not even why I don't like the game. Why I don't like the game is I've played it so many times and people take so long in what is such a simple tableau building resource worker placement game. Like, why do people take hours playing this game?
I feel this might come back to like my group's just slow, so we play everything slow, but I really like this one. It doesn't feel any slower than anything else we play.
Do you sit there for 30 minutes watching people finish the game when you're done already?
No, I go feed the dog or clean up the kitchen or go outside and smoke a cigarette.
Yeah, there's the hallmark of a good game.
Smoke them if you got them.
I go feed the dog and smoke a cigarette or whatever while other people are still playing.
I'm usually the one that's still playing.
That's why you love it. To be fair, I love this game. I absolutely adore Everdell for so many reasons, but everything you just said is accurate. It just doesn't bother me. But I understand
I'm about the same.
I understand.
I can't argue with you. Everything you said is right. It doesn't bother me. I really enjoy the game. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the game's a 1 or a 2 or something. I'm just saying I really dislike playing it. And this is, you cannot, just like you can't get me to play Time Stories again, I just won't play Everdell, right? You could get me to play Dinosaur Island again. I would give it another shot. I would play it. It's fine.
At the con, we got you to play the card game, and you hated that one too.
My Little Everdell? No, that was my idea to play.
Yeah.
I mean, because I wanted to find the fun, right? Like I think the mechanisms, right, where the cards combo off each other is
fun.
neat. I like I love it. Resources and using it for this and building your tableau and so there's so many things I like about Everdell. I just thought, well, maybe my Little Everdell is what I want Everdell to be. Spoiler,
that was like everything
it is not.
I don't like about Everdell was thrown in that one game.
Yes, it did not have any of the good stuff. It amplified all the bad stuff.
If it had the synergies between the cards, because none of the cards had any synergies with each other.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess
which is like, what's the point? It's not even Everdell at that point.
It's not Everdell if you're not like, oh, I need the farmer and the farmer's wife to get the big bonus or whatever. I don't remember all the things, but that's what's cool about that game. But then again, if I want that, I'll just play Fantasy Realms in like 10 minutes.
Well, I haven't played that yet, so.
It's such a good game. You got to play it.
Yeah.
Maybe soon. Maybe soon.
Yeah. But
yeah, I agree. The synergies are what's awesome. Like all of the synergies, the way the cards interact with the other cards, the way that you can put other things out for free, like all of that is so cool. I have a lot of fun playing that game.
I agree. I love it, and I also agree with you because there are people that I will not play it with because I know they're going to sit there and they're going to take 20 minutes for what should be a 2-second decision. It's not a hard game. It's not complicated. It's not convoluted. It's not like someone took a turn and now your entire turn is moot. Like, there's always something you can be doing, and none of it's hard. But they will sit there like it's Brass Birmingham thinking, and I just want to slap them. Just let's go. We got stuff to do. I got dogs to feed. Come on.
Right? Have to feed the dogs, man. Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Well, Neutral's number one. I see where he's coming from, although I don't know if I agree about overrated because I don't feel like people really rate it that highly anymore, is Diplomacy.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue against that. It's mostly nostalgia, I think, at this point, is why people even rate it at all.
If this was 1997, I would agree.
I mean,
of course, back then it was one of the best games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why the hype was real. But
I would play Diplomacy by email or something, right? Like one turn a day, communicating, in the back, whatever.
6 years later, you declare a winner.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fun. I'd enjoy that. I would do that, but I wouldn't sit down and play Diplomacy.
It's still 758. I mean, that's still within the top 1,000. I mean, yeah, I see your point. Because I guarantee you, it'll be a long time, if ever, that you walk in anywhere and see anybody playing this. Nobody plays this like on a tabletop ever.
Yeah, people play this electronically now, or not at all.
Yeah, you have to do electronic. As a tabletop game, it's just strictly a worse risk. As a tabletop game, electronically it's better, but you have to play it electronically.
Agreed.
All right, Erock. I know you got some honorable mentions, man. Hit us with one.
I do have a couple of honorable mentions. So first of all, I got a minor. This isn't really an honorable mention. This is just a minor gripe. I don't like that there's 18 versions of the same thing on the rankings. Like for instance, War of the Ring 2nd edition.
War of the Ring card
game. Pandemic Iberia.
Yeah, that drives me crazy. There's 2 versions of Eclipse because they came out with a new one. There's 2 versions of this. There's 3 versions of this. There's 4 versions of this. That drives me crazy in the rankings. But my actual honorable mentions are, first of all, this one hits 2 of my pet peeves. I'm going to tell you what my pet peeves are and see if you can guess the game. My pet peeves are real time and destroying what I built. Galaxy Trucker. No, sir. No, sir. I am not playing Galaxy
You
Trucker.
build it to get destroyed, though. That's the whole point.
That's the whole point, yeah.
It's not like you're humming along and someone sneaks up behind you with a crowbar.
I agree that you build it to get destroyed, but it's not like the more that gets destroyed, the better off you are. No, you still don't want it to get destroyed.
No, it's like tower defense.
It's fun watching
You're trying to last as long as you can. It's like tower defense, man.
Well, it's good that you guys like this game because I don't, and I hate it, and I do not want to play this game. It is ridiculous, and I want out.
You are not the only person. Yes.
I have an honorable mention to my honorable mention, and that is Magic Maze. I hate that game. I hate
co-op
it. I hate it. I told you before I'm going to get caught up. It's a terrible game, and nobody should play it. Okay, Magic Maze. No. All right. So that's my first honorable mention was Galaxy Trucker. And my second honorable mention is probably we're gonna lose half our subscribers right now, but Flamecraft is boring. It is boring. I get that it's cute.
You just had to inject that at the end, didn't you?
Yes, I did, because it is one of the most boring games I've ever played. It is not good.
Wait, have you played Everdell?
He's got a game going right now. He just stopped to come do this video.
Indeed. So that'll pretty much wrap up my honorable.
Which is cuter, Everdell or Flamecraft?
Ooh, Everdell.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I have some honorable mentions as well. I have an honorable mention because it was a Kickstarter. One of the early Kickstarters I did was a reprint of a game called Kremlin. And it's been so long ago since we played it, but I just felt like, I don't know, there was a lot of people who were super excited about this game getting reprinted. And so this new edition came out. It was a good quality edition, but I felt like nobody really could achieve what they were trying to achieve, and somebody just sort of lucked into getting the people at the top, and I don't know. I didn't really see what the love was for it, but I didn't play it enough to be able to articulate, what was good or bad about it. So it's just really an honorable mention for me. But then my other honorable mention, which John I know is going to jump in here.
Wait, what was the reprint of the Red? What was that one called?
No, it was Kremlin.
Oh, Kremlin.
Kremlin
Gotcha.
was the name of the reprint.
That is the game. Gotcha.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if the first version was called Kremlin or not, but anyway. And I know a lot of people liked it back then. I think people still like it now. I'm not sure. It's definitely not a highly rated game now, I don't think, anymore. But so another game which is probably not exactly burning up the charts, and it might be fun if you could ever actually successfully play the game. But I have tried 3 times, and I have been unsuccessful in 3 tries at playing the game. And that game is Cryptid. And there's even spin-offs on this. But what's worse is, I'm not even joking about successfully playing the game, is because you could be playing the game for like 20 minutes and not realize you're not really playing the game. And so one of the problems is you're basically trying to figure out where the cryptid is, the Sasquatch or whatever it is. Where is it on the map? And there's one place on the map that it can be based on everybody has one piece of knowledge saying it can't be here, it can't be there or whatever. And everybody has some piece of knowledge. And if you knew all of those pieces of knowledge, you could apply all of that knowledge and there would be one space on the map that,
it's not eliminated.
That it doesn't get eliminated logically, right? And that's where the cryptid is. So, but the trick is people will ask questions like they'll say, like, hey, this space right here is the cryptid here. And somebody will have to say no or whatever. And but you don't want to let on what your piece of information is, because if you give your piece, if somebody figures out what your clue is, now you're sort of useless to them. They have double the information that you have, right? So yours might be like, hey, you can't be within 3 spaces of a tower or something. So when somebody asks, can the cryptid be here? You don't reach over and go, 1, 2, 3. Okay, no, because then you telegraphed what your thing is. So you just got to kind of eyeball the board or whatever, and every time I've played this, somebody has messed that up, right? They're trying to not telegraph what their thing is, and they've screwed up. And it's funny because at the end, because you mark it, exactly who screwed up. you look it up on the thing and like but eventually, so as soon as somebody screws up, you are no longer playing the game anymore, but nobody knows that. So you keep going through the motions, not playing the game. You keep going through the motions for another 20 minutes or so until somebody looks at the board and goes, there's no valid place on the board. Every place on the board that the cryptid could be in is disqualified by my rule. And everybody goes,
you're the one that looks at the board and says that, right, Steve?
No, actually, it usually wasn't me.
You just get to a point where you
else.
just look out and you go, this doesn't make any sense. None of these are valid answers. And you start questioning people, like, what did you have? And you finally go, you spend 10 minutes backtracking.
You go look in the book and you say, oh, it's here. And then, oh, there's a blue cube there. You're like, damn it, Eckman, you're an idiot.
No, it's never Steve.
It's never Steve. It has never been me. That's true. But I didn't want to call anybody out or anything. But the point is the game is so fragile, right? And it's not just fragile. Like some games are fragile, like The Resistance, where somebody's like, what? So I'm Merlin, or whatever. Like, but then so what? You just shuffle up and you deal again. This game, you don't know that it's broken. You keep playing. You keep going through the motions for 20 minutes, and then you find
I hear
out
what you're saying.
It's broken.
Because I like deduction games, but it's one thing for me to make a mistake and screw up my whole game. It's another thing for me to make a mistake and screw up everybody's game.
I think totally I've seen 4 total games of this, and none of them have successfully completed. All 4 were broken. It is so fragile to the point where it's almost not a game, because getting through it without somebody making a single minor mistake is almost impossible.
It must happen because people enjoy the game and rate it highly. But
they play it solo.
Oh man, or co-op, right? Everybody just tell everybody what your rule is.
Just play face up. It's all public information. But I do have another quick honorable mention. Back to your thing with the Kickstarter, or not Kickstarter, the reprint hype. I've come to find that a lot of people that hype up reprints, it's a very niche group, and it's not the big, overwhelming voice you think it is. because the game comes out, it gets reprinted, you play it, and you're like, oh, that's not that great. I can see why it's out of print. And for me, that game was Fury of Dracula. I love the concept of
really?
it, but it is the worst hidden movement game I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah, I do not like Fury of Dracula. But for a while, so many people were, you got to reprint this. You got to reprint.
There's 4 editions of it.
Yeah, and it was between 3rd and 4th edition, and it had been out of print for a few years, and there was a big clamor to reprint, and they finally did. And I played it, and I'm just like, this is terrible. But the problem is, I played the 3rd edition game where you don't. It's something like you don't give people the cards if you draw them, like because you draw it and it's for Dracula, put it on the bottom of the deck or whatever. 4th edition changed that rule to make it better, but I played it under the 3rd edition rule, which made the game terrible for me. So it might be a good game now, but when it was getting reprinted, it was not.
Wow, that was on that tabletop series, so maybe that's why it's so popular.
Yep.
I don't know.
Neutral says John is wrong. I agree, Neutral. John is wrong.
I haven't played it. I was just surprised. I'd never heard anybody really.
I'd rather play Nuns on the
crap
Run.
the game before.
It's
Nuns on the Run
definitely
is good,
long. Like Fury's, that's one of the longest hidden movement games you're going to play. There is a lot to it. There's a whole process of things going on there. I like what they're doing there. If you're in for a long game and like hidden movement, I think it's really good. But
to me, that's the problem. Is if you're one of the humans on your turn, it's like you move one spot. Dracula, you here? No.
Yeah, that's 100%
All right,
accurate.
Now let's wait for Dracula to spend 10 minutes doing his turn.
I don't know if I'd play this with. I don't think you need 5 people because you're absolutely right. 4 hunters each are going to go one space and do one thing, and then that's it. That's your turn, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah, and so I played it with the rule of you put the card at the bottom instead of giving it to somebody, and there were 5 of us, and in that it was terrible. But maybe as a 3-player game with that new version of the rule, maybe it's really great. I don't know, but when people call for a reprint, I'm like,
tricky
why?
like that anyway? Because like Letters to Whitechapel, I feel that's a good game too, but it's the same thing. Like if you just have 5 different people, like everybody just gets one little thing that they do.
But,
so there's
no complexity to it. It's just like I move here, no, and then it's their turn. They go, okay, I'm hidden, and then you move. Is it here? It's just so much faster and simpler. Mr.
That's true.
X,
it's a lot faster.
Scotland Yard, Nuns on the Run. You can play them in like an hour. Fury of Dracula, you're looking at like a 3-hour game.
Yeah, it's a
really
long
just
game.
move. You there? No. Well, I lose. Your turn.
Neutral's honorable mention is Marvel United, which I have not played, but I'm
I haven't played that
surprised to
either.
see that.
Gets a ton of good press.
Yeah, he says 5-minute Marvel is easier to get to the table. Huh.
Yeah, 5-minute games are fun for 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have the I have the Marvel version. Yeah, because there's also like 5-minute Dungeon or something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got that from the kids. 5-minute Marvel, they enjoyed it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, any other honorable mentions?
I just want to say, just to remind everybody, there's been a whole lot of negativity in here. This is just my personal opinion about things. If you made one of these games or love one of these games, good on you, man. I don't want to take your fun away from you. People like different music. People like different books and movies. People like different games. That's all good and fine. They're just not for me. Not for me.
Yeah,
and yes, Ethnos. Ethnos is terrible. That is my last.
Hey, whoa! Remove him from the call. Ethnos is an amazing game. You're terrible.
My God. Ethnos is me drawing completely different cards 18 million times in a row while everybody else puts sets down. That's what Ethnos is.
Skill issue.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, I made a game, all right? It got published, and a lot of people crap on it. But, like, I don't care. That game's not for everybody. If you don't like it, I don't
Nothing's
care.
for everybody.
That's me on my alt accounts. I'm sorry.
That was you with that Amazon review, right?
Yeah.
What did it say? It was like, I enjoyed playing it. I have fun every time I play it, but it's not a good game.
Right.
Typical Amazon review.
Yeah, that's good. Good times.
Neutral says now time for overrated reviewers. I nominate Steven.
Wow.
We'd have to be rated well to be overrated. So
Everybody who's not on Just Got Play, they are all overrated.
Hey, you know what? You give shout outs to other channels when we're doing videos. Like, I don't care, right?
I do,
raise,
yeah.
Raise each other up, man.
If they do a good job, that's great.
I
Like I
watch
said, like
a
I was
ton
talking
of other
about
board game content.
Yeah, you
no
think
fun included, man. They got in this whole thing where they were doing like these hour-long reviews, but they weren't really reviews. They were really like dissertations on a subject.
Yeah.
And that's a lot for a lot of people, but for me it was super interesting. I'm like, look at that. That's really
Yeah.
I'll watch a 6-hour YouTube video about topics. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah,
I love it.
And I can't sit here and do these board game reviews in a vacuum, man. I want to know what the Dice Tower thinks, and Shut Up and Sit Down, and Meeple University, and I want Rodney Smith to teach me how to play a game, right? Like I watch all kinds of other YouTube channels.
I'd like to play a game with Rado once, just to know if he actually does all that stuff when he's playing a game. Where it's like, oh no, wait,
he wants to take stuff back on you. Yeah,
but he plays everything solo. Isn't that antithetical to your being?
Oh man.
Yeah, we're just having fun here. If you enjoy these games, most of these games aren't terrible. I'd play most of the games, but overhyped, they absolutely are overhyped.
I can't remember, but I will not play Everdell or Time Stories again. I'm sorry. I'm just never playing them again. Probably everything else that was mentioned I would give a shot to. Maybe not Diplomacy.
I won't play Blood Rage ever again, I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure I'll actually be playing the games on my list again because someone who is very important to me likes those games.
Yeah, well, there are reasons. There are reasons to play games. Varied reasons.
Those are also the reasons they're on the list, because you're forced to play them.
Yeah, that probably doesn't help. All right,
awesome.
Well, I'm Steven. That's Erock. That's John. We're from Just Got Played. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. If you want to talk to us about board games, you can leave a comment here in the YouTube channel, or you could just look below. There's a link to our Discord channel in the description of the video. You come on over there and talk to us. I will be at BGGCon starting Wednesday. I'll be there like Wednesday through Saturday morning or something. So come look for me there if you want. Otherwise, we're at Dice Tower Cons pretty frequently as well. John's always on the cruise. Erock and I are always at Dice Tower East. So we're around. We're accessible. Come talk board games with us. But until the next time, thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Have a beautiful time.
Thank you, John. Awesome.